trapped inside the devil's den. So trapped inside the devil's den.
In a world full of readers, there are plenty of critics. In a world full of writers, there are plenty of people who aren't going to react well. While this video isn't going to be getting too deep into the world of constructive criticism versus criticism that is not, we are going to explore some of the ways that readers can give that constructive feedback without it being too painful to bear. Spoonful of sugar, folks, and some apple cider vinegar. I'm a firm believer in tough love in writing. So when it comes to criticizing another person's work, I can be kind of cutthroat. But I have to remind myself sometimes that the other half of that equation is the love part. Not just love for the art, but the love for thy fellow neighbor when it comes to understanding that nobody is perfect, especially myself. In earlier videos, I have expressed some regret for the way that I have nitpicked other people's works to the point where it becomes almost personal. And that raised questions for even myself on what my true intentions were when it comes to reading other people's stuff. Are my frustrations just a sign of deep-rooted insecurities? Am I jealous of other writers' success? The answer to all of them? Yes. So I had to back up and do some reflection. Why would I live for the thrill of beating other writers down? If I truly believed in myself and my writing that one day I will find success, what am I really envious about? Shouldn't I be doing more work on myself before I start criticizing others? It made me realize that I still have plenty of work to do on myself, and even though I love the art and the frustration for the potential is real, sometimes I can take it a bit too far. So, just a disclaimer, take this video with a grain of salt. Truth is, whether you're a writer, reader, fan, or critic, everybody has an opinion. Not all books are meant for everybody, and some of the most successful ones out there still have their hate clubs. Plenty of people hated Van Gogh, couldn't stand to listen to Beethoven, and still think Twilight is an annoying piece of crap that proves its own immortality through other vampire stories feeding off of its predecessor. Plenty of people in the AuthorTube community and the BookTube community are critics in their own right. Some are harsher than others, getting into the nitty-grittiness of every detail just to prove how much they detested reading the book. Ha, dick. Others are simply expressing an opinion. If you're hoping to soothe the painful truth of feedback for your friends, peers, or coworkers, you're in for a great surprise. Those writers who are looking for honest feedback and think that they can take the hint, you can't. No matter how thick-skinned, bull-headed, or heightened your apathy from weeks of taking ashwagandha supplements, nothing is going to prepare you for the criticism of your work. No matter how nice or professional the reader is that you trusted with your heart and soul, the slightest remark against any detail in your work is going to feel like a dolphin tail slapped you in the face. I might not be able to help numb the pain any better than a glass full of raspberry cordial, but I'm gonna try. Maybe this will help readers understand how they can come off better when it comes to offering feedback or constructive criticism for the work of a friend, peer, co-writer, or student. And I hope that it will help other writers understand their own insecurities so that we might improve our works, even if they're not the best things someone ever read. Unlike Margot's insistence for a real cheeseburger, this form of criticism does indeed come in avant bullshit form. Readers, a word of advice. If the writer in question, be it in person, online, or someone from your local book club, is telling you just get to the point, be honest, don't spare their feelings, don't buy it. Not everyone is on the carnivore diet, and most would actually prefer this form of criticism, even if they don't say so. The idea of this method comes with complimenting the better portions of the work before and after the meatier portions of criticism. The positive feedback kind of serves as a filler that helps the medicine go down a little bit better. Now, this doesn't mean say one mild good thing about their work and then immediately move on to the bad. You gotta work your way into it. Make sure that you are being genuine about the feedback that you are giving. Even some of the worst works out there have some good in them. So try to find it and be prepared to follow up. Whether it's on world building, characters, story, when it comes to start bringing in that criticism, make sure to start on the lighter notes. Try to spin them in a positive light that tie into the better parts you liked about the story. Maybe even offering suggestions to improve, not fix, improve these lighter portions. I like the underworld you've created, but I was hoping it could be a little darker. I liked this character, but I feel like she might have been too outspoken. I started to like where you were going with the plot, and I couldn't help but wonder if it went this way. Bear in mind, some writers are not asking you to fix their works, so just make sure that you've cleared up beforehand whether or not they're open to these types of suggestions. And if that's the case, you can just skip to the meat and get straight to the point. which is where your heavier criticisms come into play. If anything I've learned, here is where you don't sugarcoat it. But if the writer is already crushed about the fact that you didn't find their work perfect, feel free to kind of speed it up, move it along, finish it off with another good point, wrap it up. Be as specific as you can about the fundamental issues with the story and try to avoid using personal preferences that may not apply to their particular taste in writing. No matter how careful you are, it is important to recognize when you need to stop. Some writers can't accept any criticism, even when they're asking for it, which brings me to my second point. Expect disappointment. There are a multitude of reasons why your reader, friend, or unknown critic might not like your work. And most readers go through with asking for that honest feedback without actually expecting it. We all view our works through love goggles, but it's important to remember that what our work is for us is going to be different for other people. We say it one way, but everyone else is on the outside looking in. And the only cure for this is to expect to be disappointed. And I don't mean batter yourself on the head with self-loathing that you can't do anything right, or that nobody will ever enjoy your work. The world is filled with billions of people out there. I guarantee at least one is going to like it. But I wouldn't go forward with asking for an outsider's opinion until you've settled these insecurities within yourself and you are ready to face that kind of feedback. It's a sign of growth and maturity that I'm kind of finding lacking in the writing community online. And there are plenty of professionals and traditionally published writers who still struggle with accepting that some people just might not like their work. Make sure you are emotionally mature enough to handle the unexpected. Who knows? Maybe they'll like it. But then, what if that's all they say? Okay, great. Now what? Not just for readers, but also for you writers who offered to take the time to review another person's work. I had swap read my stories with another writer that I found online. While I did my best to try to study her work and fill out a formative essay of all of the things that I did find wrong with it, I expected her to give me a fully honest deconstruction of a short piece of my work that I had review swapped with her in return. I had been working on this project for 8 years at the time. At this point, I hated it. I just wanted it to be over. But I couldn't help but feel something was still missing. Family couldn't afford to read it, friends might read up to chapter 5 with similar "it's good" and then just shrug the rest off. But to get the opinion of another writer who I knew was taking the art just as seriously as I was, bring it on. Unfortunately, the only real feedback that I got back was, "it's good." The rest of my questions were answered with very vague answers, which told me either one, this person didn't find anything wrong with it, or they hadn't actually bothered to read it at all. They weren't really being specific enough to help me determine what I still needed to work on. The whole point of asking for honest feedback, especially from a writer, is to get that perspective so you know what might need to be worked on. Otherwise, it's a waste of time, and it hurts more coming back empty-handed with no more answers than you had to begin with. Don't agree to review swap if you're not going to read the damn book. At least act like you give a shit. But let's just say you started reading it. You hated it, and now you don't know how to tell that person that you couldn't finish their work for review. Yeah, I get this one too. Sometimes the writing is so bad you can't follow it. You don't even know how to find the good points to make because it's too confusing to understand. Sometimes the grammar and punctuation is too distracting, and other times it might not even be the writing itself. But the story isn't your type and you don't know how to give the writer proper feedback to help. Here's where it's gonna hurt. You're going to have to tell them you couldn't finish.
That's what she said.
Now, most of you would rather try to finish, pretend to finish, or at least give a review on the bits that you had read. Just stop. Even coming back with no feedback is a huge growth opportunity for the writer. If you can't tell them exactly why you couldn't finish the book, the least you can do is tell them that it wasn't for you. As writers, we need to own up to the fact that our works are not going to be for everyone. This in itself is one of the biggest lessons to learn. It is one of the hardest truths, and facing up to it before publication is going to better prepare us for after it has already become available to the public, versus pretending that you liked the work, read the work, and gave criticism on the portions that you were able to follow. Well, now you've just misdirected. They'll not only still have to face these truths down the road on a bigger scale, but the parts that might have been improved or worked on a little bit more are now going to be ignored to focus on those little tidbits that you did get when it's those biggest issues that might make it fail. Which brings me to my last point. That's right, you heard me. There are no takebacks. Oh sure, you can remove a video, edit a review on Goodreads, but the after effects of what is said will still be there, especially when it's in direct correlation to another person. One of my biggest truths came with a reflection after my Jenna Morassi videos blew up. I'm still getting comments telling me how unprofessional, mean, bitchy and rude I am in my videos. And they're right. As embarrassing as it is for me to admit that those videos were a mistake and that I kind of took it too far, crossed that line a little too much, I'm not opposed to owning up to it. And the lashings I got for those reviews were particularly hard-hitting, probably about as much as my first videos on BookTube. But it did give me a better idea of where I want to go, how far I want to take my criticism for the sake of humor, and some bitter truths that I had to face about myself before I felt comfortable enough to continue with my channel. I can't take back what I said or even the attitude with which I said them when I was making some of those jabs, but I can determine to do better. And that's the only thing that we really can do once we've recognized that we took something too far. Especially with online social media, we have this idea in our heads that we have to project this perfect image of ourselves, this perfect brand, just so we can avoid any backlash. And I think it's fair to say even some of the best people still have something in them that they need to work on. Even if we're not the perfect version of ourselves, as long as we determine to change and grow, I think that's something worth fighting for. We can learn from our mistakes and how we can correct them when we can. Now, I'm not opposed to making fun of something just because it's goofy or corny or just plain stupid. Movie reviewers do it all the time. But writers are a lot more sensitive, and I think that's why we kind of take these things a little more personally. Even with the help of beta readers and editors, the bulk of the work still rests on the writer's shoulders. We're very emotionally attuned with our stories, and that is why it affects us so much. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to go about doing book reviews, so I'm sure I'll piss off plenty of people in the future while I figure out where exactly that line is. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, recommend to a friend, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you're willing to wait for more. Feel free to share in the comment section some of your experience when it comes to giving and receiving feedback for your work. You think might be other beneficial ways for readers to give feedback, and other tips and tricks for writers and how to accept that feedback even when it hurts. I hope to see you guys in my next video.
The demons you forgot about. In the blind spot sitting in the bed. Now I'm making up beat. Invisible to me, yeah. Corrupted souls don't know. Got black moon behind the drywall. Couldn't even see, even when you bleed. So now you can feel